Black Robe podcast. As always, it's your girl Anzhane here with my lovely co-host, Miss Carol Mitchell. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well this week. How are you?
I'm doing good. I don't know how I'm actually still walking. I think at this point I'm kind of sleepwalking just because it's been a busy week for me. It has. It has
You,
been.
you lead a 21st century, first world kind of life with multiple commitments on a given day, all important.
Mm.
And I'm just wondering when you find time to just rest, relax, renew, and all of that. Because I know this week you've been in a really important training, juvenile justice training. You want to tell me about it?
Yes, absolutely. The juvenile justice training, has been phenomenal. It started at the beginning of this week, Monday, 22nd, and it will conclude tomorrow on Friday. But it really has been amazing because it's all about transformation of the juvenile justice system. But before I really dive in, young people, we don't sleep. We don't sleep. We keep moving. Okay, there's 24 hours in the day. Which means I can do, 5 different things and still get 4 hours of sleep. So I'm okay.
Oh, I remember those days. Those
Uh,
remind me of law school days where I could stay up all night and go 2 or 3 days with just a couple hours of sleep. But I'm old now. I can't do that anymore. I need to sleep.
you put your hours in, Carol. When I get to be more like you, I'm sure I won't be moving like this either.
Hopefully, you will just get all the work done in your 20s and 30s and be able to chill. By the time you hit your 60s, you'll be coasting.
Uh, I
But
know that's correct.
I've been thinking a lot about you and about a lot of the movies that are coming out right now, which we barely have time to see. And one in particular that I know that you have seen and I have not yet seen, um, about Chairman Fred, the Black Panther Party chairman, and
Yes.
Judas and the Black Messiah is the name of the movie. And I know you've seen it. And what it's brought up for me is the whole concept of black on black betrayal.
Mm.
And that's what I
Ooh,
want us to, that's what I want to talk about tonight. Black on
mm-hmm.
black betrayal. And that's what that movie sort of represents to me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm old school and my values are, 1959 values. I don't know. But
Now loyalty is still hip to be loyal.
oh,
It is definitely still hip to be loyal, Carol.
there's a song. Tower of Power has a song out called What is Hip. I'm going to have to play that because I agree with you. It's hip to be loyal. And um, I want to talk about that subject with you tonight. And maybe you can frame it, tell people a little bit about the movie and the disloyalty, the betrayal that it represents. But I had a conversation this week myself with a very good friend of mine, and we said, you really find out who your true friends are when you go through a period of difficulty, like what I've been through these last
Mm,
7 months or so. There's some
mm.
folks that I have not even heard a word from.
Oh well, yeah,
And these were my friends who haven't
right.
even called. And one person said, well, maybe they think you're going to ask for something. And so they don't want you to ask. It's like, what could I possibly ask them for? Those were folks who were
Right.
always asking me for something.
Yeah, and you're the one going through something. They they should be calling to check on you. Why would you have to be reaching out to them?
It's called loyalty
Yeah.
and betrayal and all of that. And, it's a very painful experience, regardless of race. But I
Mm-hmm.
do think we hold ourselves folks within
Mhm.
our cultural frame, within our close friend group, we allow
Yeah.
them access to us in ways that other folks are not allowed. And when they betray us, that's tough to process.
Yeah, it cuts deep. It cuts so deep. But let me give some context,
You
Carol.
tell us about the movie because I haven't seen it yet and I'm not sure I can, but
I
convince
think you
me.
have to. I think you need, well, you don't have to, but I encourage you to because one, the story is powerful. It's a historical story within the African American community. I want my kids to learn of this story. I think there's a lot of knowledge and power in history. So for that reason, definitely you should watch it. For anybody else that hasn't seen the film, it's currently showing on HBO Max, which is, it's a application subscription, right? You can watch it online or on your phone, your smart TV or whatnot. Definitely go check it out, guys. It's about the story of Chairman Fred Hampton, who was the chairman of the Black Panther Party in Chicago, Illinois, back in 1969 or so. And this man was remarkable. He was a little bit different than your West Coast Black Panther leaders, okay? Like my man Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton. Like the West Coastmen in Oakland, they were so black, they were pro-black. Everything was about unification, solidarity, community
Mhm.
within the Black Panther Party, right? But Fred Hampton, he had a bigger vision. He saw actually that he could draw parallels between a lot of other different groups. And so he took this vision and he built this rainbow coalition of,
Hmm.
not only just members of the Black Panther Party, but members of poor, white groups, members of Native American groups, Hispanic groups, even other Black militant groups that weren't the Black Panthers, right?
Mhm.
So he was bringing together all these different people from different backgrounds, um, and building a revolution. That is what scared the heck out of the FBI. That is what did it, because he was able to join forces. You know, now that obviously drew a very big threat, Carol, because as you will learn in the movie, the FBI had to come up with creative ways to dismantle this rainbow coalition, or, pretty much get rid of Fred Hampton. I mean, as vivid as, just putting targets out on him, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Divide
you
and
know,
conquer,
divide and
the
conquer.
old
So,
strategy.
yep, that's right. So I mean, what did Lincoln say? He said, "A house divided amongst itself cannot stand." So
Mhm.
that's an old tactic, and it proven to work. They basically hired a Black informant. Now this is what happened. The Black informant, he was he was a Black Panther member, right?
Mhm.
But not initially. The cops found him on some other petty crime. He wasn't initially a Black Panther. They found him trying to steal cars and I don't want to tell you guys the whole movie, right? But they picked him up off this petty crime,
Mhm.
and they said, "Hey, we won't charge you on this petty crime. Instead, we want you, you can go home and live your life, but you're gonna go home as an informant.
Mm.
You're gonna be our CI. You're gonna be our rat, our mole, right?
Mhm.
Inside the Black Panther party." And I mean, the FBI, they gave him, resources in order to get close to Fred Hampton, you know uh and it proven to work, right? I mean, it's just it's a clear story of how need, you know uh trumped his, you know um I don't know, any
Sense
sort
of
of
loyalty.
loyalty, yeah, or that racial
Mhm.
tie that we are talking about.
Mhm.
right? I mean, the loyalty was out the window as soon as he was like, "Oh, you got a little money for me? You know, you you're not gonna charge me for the crime, those petty crimes. Okay, then I'll do it." You know,
What do you think
it was
about the title being sort of I mean, Judas and the Black Messiah, which sort of, is a throwback to Christianity and the story
mhm,
of Judas, one of the 12 disciples, who in theory betrayed uh,
Jesus.
Christ and sold his robe and all of that. What did you think of the parallels between the biblical story and
Mhm.
Chairman Fred's story?
Yeah. Well, I think the word the Black Messiah was used in history. Um, whether I don't remember exactly if it was used in terms of Malcolm X or MLK, but it was used. I remember reading about this Black Messiah.
It
So
wasn't
I don't know if
Isaac Hayes, was it?
no, no.
I think there was an
In fact,
album.
it's
I,
in the book, Carol. It's in the book. We'll talk about this book a little bit later, guys. But just a quick side note: this is a great book. Uh, a Black woman's history of the United States. Okay, shout out Larry Sequist. Thank you.
Thank you,
That is a
Larry.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Larry. Oh man. But no, that I believe that term was used for because we've always had these strong patriarch, uh,
Mhm.
male masculine leaders in civil rights, right?
And Chairman Fred was sort of that savior of the black quote underclass, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, he was sort of creating disciples of a certain philosophy of black liberation. So I could see how that would match up. Uh,
Yeah.
I have had a struggle, about going to see it because I don't know how I feel about the whole story and, J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI and their tactics. And, you know,
Well, we
I'm,
know
I'm
from
struggling with that.
COINTELPRO. I mean, I mean, this is real. And some might think, oh, this is conspiracy, or this is, maybe elaborate, or it's just for Hollywood, right?
Mhm.
But do not let that narrative or those comments dismiss the fact that this is real life history, American, U.S. history. This really happened. Fred Hampton was killed by the FBI,
Mhm.
and it's ironic now that we're hearing about this new evidence in the Malcolm X uh,
Right, right.
case.
The
You know,
deathbed confession of a police, I don't know, was he FBI or just New York Police Department? One or
he
the other.
was, yeah, he was one or the other, but he was very close in the event. Like he said, he was the one that made sure that Malcolm X was vulnerable that night, didn't have any security or whatnot. So, I mean, it's just goes to show that, how, I mean, there's proof on top of proof. We cannot deny that these events, happened.
Mhm.
Right. So we gotta see the movie. I think I think it has more to tell than just history too. I think it really does open up, this truth within the Black community and maybe other communities as well. But I can only speak as a Black woman for, myself within the Black community. And we know that betrayal happens, you know.
Mm.
It happened with back in Christ, right? It happened with Fred
Throughout
Hampton,
history, right?
throughout history, right? And it continues to happen. And it does hurt. It cuts a little deeper when it's someone of your own descent,
Mhm.
right?
Why is
Someone that you
that? Why do we expect more out of each other than we expect out of anybody that we trust? I mean, why does it make a difference to us? And it does seem to make a difference to me. That's why I haven't seen the movie, because it
yeah.
does feel different to me that the betrayal that happened was someone in his close inner circle who was supposed to be a part of the Black Panther Party.
Family. They were family. You know, brothers and sisters. They would call each other brother, sister.
That's right.
You know, I mean, the informant was standing right next to Fred Hampton, preaching, I am a revolutionary. You know, like would say the words, walk the talk, would eat with them, you know. I mean, and still betray. And so I definitely, when you're that close and you betray someone, it hurts deeper. When you're from the same race or background, I think you figure that you live through the same experiences in a sense, right? So, you know,
well, so let me talk for just a moment about, you know, a couple of, aside from, you know, my own experience that I've had this last 6 months or so, what I have noticed is there is a bit of I'm gonna just say it, a house Negro syndrome that develops.
Preach. And you better preach, Carol. We talking, it's about to get hot in here, okay? I know, we both got the turtlenecks on today.
Let me take my scarf off. Let me clear my throat.
Oh man, the house Negro syndrome. Talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Historically, there was a divide between slaves who worked in the fields sun up till sundown, who engaged in hard labor, manual labor, and who, because they were in the sun all day and all night, maybe they tended to have a little bit darker hue than those who worked inside their master's home. And those, quote, house Negroes, I used to say, I was in the house at Pierce County, but I was never part of the family. And I think when you get into the house and you start to dress in the clothes of your master, learn how to read and write and speak in their language, because it's a survival thing. You're trying to survive. And nobody really wants to suffer and work day in and day out in the fields.
Yeah, right.
But I think sometimes there's some sort of a psychological shift that happens because we begin to identify more with our captors than we do with those who have been captured. And we forget that we too are not free.
Right.
And so our loyalties get a little confused sometimes when we've spent so much time inside the house. We had a particular situation here recently where I saw someone describe a situation that was clearly based on racism, but decided that it was more palatable to call the problem one of economics and mental health. And I thought to myself, we need to be real about
right,
and call these issues as they really are. Let's not try to sugarcoat them and
right.
Hey, so we got to start eating strong meat. This is not about serving up oatmeal. It's a strong meat kind of situation. But when you have been in the house for so long and you start to identify with your captors, I think there's I don't know, do they call it Munchausen syndrome or what do they call it? I don't know. When you identify with the captors. And I think in some ways, the character in Judas and the Black Messiah became more concerned about his own self-preservation, which is, I think, than he was about the collective. And that is antithetical to African American culture. it historically is a communal culture. The collective has more priority than the individual, which is
Mm,
exactly the opposite of the capitalist individualistic society we live in here, which is why he was trying to get people, Chairman Fred was trying to get people to think as a collective again.
right.
All right,
Exactly.
I'm going to leave the house Negroes alone.
Leave leave the house Negroes alone, Carol. You know, they probably would have put me in the house. But I would be the slave that used my privilege to let you know, to make
Teach,
sure the ones
to
in the
teach
field had
other
the good
slaves
food
how to read,
or
right? Yeah, you would have learned how to read to teach other folks how to read, right? That's
yeah, absolutely. I would have been the one running with Harriet. I said, I don't want to stay in this house. We got to go and build our own house. Okay.
you gonna be,
Seriously.
you would have said, you gonna be free or you gonna die. Because you're not going,
You
you're not
know?
going back. You're not turning back.
Mm-mm.
But I do think um, those of us who have managed to get into certain positions of power and authority and privilege need to remember that we're still not free.
Right. Right. Still ain't free.
You're still
Still
not
ain't
free,
free.
and you're still not part of the family. And your bloodline still reaches back to the field.
Mm-hmm.
I know
Exactly.
I personally don't know very many people who are living here in Washington State that didn't come from the South and migrate. You know,
Right.
most of them came from the South, may have
Mm-hmm.
stopped in the Midwest, in Chicago or wherever, and
Right.
then came west.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know very many people who started in Washington State. And so our bloodline still, most likely, most of us have a
Mm-hmm.
historic connection to the fields.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. There was no ports here on the the West Coast. They wasn't bringing slaves up to the the
That would
Puget
have been the
or what
long way around.
the Puget. They no that no, but you're right, Carol. You said so many key points, right, when it comes to loyalty, especially within the community, and about this collective idea, you know. So people have to understand when it comes to self-preservation and legacy, your legacy isn't from what you preserved here during your 80 years, 100 years of life. You know, we have to think bigger than that,
Mm,
right? We really do. Our legacy is what is talked about after we've already passed. I hope to make a imprint on my community to the extent that it's, there's something that's passed on, something that's celebrated, whether no matter how small or how big that might be, but it doesn't begin or end with me. I know that I'm only in the positions that I am in because of the people that came before me, because of the shoulders that I get to stand on top of, because of the platforms and the spaces that I'm allowed to speak in, you know, and so I have to now use this is just a tool. My body and my mouth is just a tool to be a part of this vision, this legacy,
mm,
And so the people like the Judas in the movie, he's just thinking about the $50, the $100 that he's gonna get, and there was informants on the West Coast. Don't get it wrong. They were trying to sell drugs all up and down the Black Panther Party to really dismantle and break it up, and they were still hired by FBI government. Just, the same thing was happening, but people were buying into it because they were thinking about their selves. They're thinking about this short term of life. I mean, we are just specks of time on this planet. When you really think about other cultures and how they look at dynasties, the Chinese dynasty,
mm-hmm,
that family kept things for thousands of years. Just the
mm-hmm,
family, they
mm-hmm.
never sold, because they understood legacy, they understood dynasty, and that community, that collective, right? It wasn't just about the individual. you know. So for those that are, within the community that are disloyal and they're betraying their own partner, brothers and sisters, you really got to ask yourself, am I doing this for myself? Or, what is my vision of legacy? What is my purpose here on this world? Is it so my name can be associated with, money or fame or whatever? Or is it the imprint and the effects that I want to have on my community? Is it the impacts that I'm making on other people's lives? Fred Hampton, the reason why we're still talking about him now, even though he was killed and murdered more than 40 years ago, is because he did so much for other people. He didn't care about, he had children coming into this world and, he didn't have riches and fame. He was still giving all his time to the community with the breakfast programs and the clinics.
Right.
Right. That's why we're talking about him. I guarantee if you're just doing anything for yourself, nobody's going to talk about you, late years, 50 years down the line, 100 years. I don't care. There's a lot of people that have helped to do a lot of things. And are we talking about them? You know what I mean? How many bills have been written in the course of, this country, right? Do we know everyone's name that wrote those bills?
No. Or who signed on or
who signed them? We don't.
Well, how about your advice for other young people like you who are trying to make that next move in your careers and maybe experiencing some betrayal along the way, maybe some people that you thought you could trust, people that you thought were going to be in your corner, actually end up being like Judas and the Black Messiah. How do you deal with that, cope with that?
Yeah. Well, I'm a very resilient person, and I encourage everyone out there to be just as resilient, to just keep on pushing, no matter how many people tell you no in your life, or no matter how many people, you thought had your back, and the second that, you actually needed the support, they weren't there. You got to keep pushing. You got to keep fighting. One, I have faith in God, I really do. And I know that, if I didn't have my faith, I'd be lost because I would think I can control everything. I would think that, I could control what happens around me, right? And then I wouldn't know how to really handle that amount of pressure. But because I have faith, I'm able to give a lot of pressure, whether it's financial pressure or, social pressure, right? I'm able to give it all to God or, to my faith so that I can breathe and sleep at night, and so that I can keep on fighting, so that I can keep on pushing, because, good will come. You continue, whether you believe in God or not, you believe that, cosmic energy, you put good into the world, you do good, good shall come, laws of attraction, these types, if you think positive, you'll attract positive things. That has really helped me, especially this last year, because I tell you, Carol,
this last year, this was a year for the two of us.
This last year, it sure was, but I think we both came into a better self in 2021, and that doesn't mean that we are that we're rich, that doesn't mean that, that we got everything figured out, but at least, for myself, at least I can breathe, I really had some sort of spiritual transformation last year, where I couldn't take control anymore. I just wanted to keep on pushing. And whenever things really did get tough for me, I just gave it to God. And I just said, you know what, everything's going to work out. Just keep on fighting. So that's my advice for anybody out there, young or old, You know, when you're hit with betrayal, you gotta just keep pushing. Just give that pressure away, you know, because God don't like ugly.
I know. I
Yeah.
know. I saw just very quickly, I saw proof of how divine plan can unfold
Mm,
after the forces around us, those who have betrayed, those who
mm,
were jealous, envious, or
yeah.
whatever, wanted to see us fail.
Mm,
Um, I just have to acknowledge that this week the governor appointed my friend, Dr. Karen Johnson, PhD.
yes.
I like to say that
Yes, you
as
deserve
as the
that.
new head of the brand new Office of Equity for the state of Washington. And a lot of people don't realize that I had actually hired her. I recruited her to come and build out the Office of Equity and
Wow.
Organizational Development at Pierce County.
Oh, wow.
And
See,
Pierce County was not ready to
no.
go where she was boldly trying to take them. And so look at how God
Right. Look at how
vindicates
God moves. Yes.
vindicates her, right? And so surely if he can vindicate her, and this is what she told me this week, if he can vindicate her, he can vindicate the two of us,
Amen to
right?
that.
There's some bigger thing prepared for us. And part of what happens when we are betrayed is it clarifies for us
Mm-hmm.
who's going to the bigger vision with us,
Mm-hmm.
because it's sort of like separating the wheat from the chaff.
Right.
That pruning
Exactly.
process is happening. So, when you're high, you have all these folks around you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, they're sort of basking in your light
Uh-huh.
and
Exactly.
drinking in your flavor.
Your
And
Kool-Aid.
then when all that is gone, what's left are those people who are really going to be with you for that next bigger thing that's coming.
Hmm. That's right. What did Michelle Obama say? When people go low, we go
We go
high.
high.
Okay. That's how we
and, and is and is it Maya Angelou that says when people show you who they are, believe them?
believe it. I know that's right. Oh man.
Well, next time we get together, I want to hear about more about your training, and I will get started on reading the book. You still got the book with you?
I still, yes,
Thank you, Larry.
everyone,
Larry Sequist.
please.
Oh, I can't see it. Oh, there it goes.
Oh,
A
I have to
Black
put it
Woman's
into in front of
History
my person.
of the United States, written by two Black women historians from
Yes.
their perspective. So what's your juicy nugget that you've got in the first few pages that you as you read the book?
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, this book is full of untold stories from Black women, told by Black women. Okay, so I love the language. I mean, this is a easy read. It's
Good.
although it's by historians, it's not a whole bunch of long jargon that we don't know. You know,
Hey, only lawyers do that.
well, and I love it. It's yeah, it's a page turner, so anybody can pick it up and read it. It is in a chronological order, so it predates back to before the British and the Dutch and the French actually came and explored North America, right? It predates the transatlantic slave trade, but
Mm,
then it also dives into all of these historical moments in our history, from the early 16th, 17th century, right? And then I hope that it ends off with our present day, and I think that's what's going to happen. But yeah, a lot of untold stories, which we wouldn't be surprised because Black women were not able to either share their stories during these times, or were the white the white captors, right? They didn't want to tell about the things that they were doing, you know. So a lot of this history was erased, but these women are putting the pieces back together. And they're doing it really well. I got to tell you, there's a lot of supporting evidence in this book as well to really just quantify, the time. Yeah, I mean,
let me get the authors' names.
Yes, authors' names. Dana Ramey Berry. So these are two Black historians actually that they met while getting their PhDs or their master something. So they met in the institute, but decided to work together afterwards. So yes, Dana Ramey Berry and Callie Nicole Gross.
All right.
They are, they both authored this book. One's a professor, history professor at Rutgers, Callie Moras Gross, and Dana Ramey Berry. She's a professor of history and a dean of the Graduate Education and Transformation of the University of Texas at Austin.
Yeah, so Texas, hopefully she has electricity this week. That's a whole
I know. I actually felt bad. They're really going through it down there. We gotta pray for. I didn't realize it was as severe. When we kind of chuckled at it last week, but
oh no, I put on there. It's another Katrina.
Yeah.
Only with ice. It's bad, and it's going to take a long time for many of those folks to recover from the damage of it, not to mention $17,000 light bills, which is outrageous and ridiculous. But I'm gonna close. We're gonna close. Yes. And real quickly mention our Freedom Summer Symposium again, June 28, 29, 30. Information at the end of this video. Folks can find some information there about it. Just keep watching the slides that come after this video.
Yes, and we'll have more videos to come too, guys. This is gonna be a big event, so we're gonna be dropping all types of little teasers and promotions. I think we might be doing a giveaway. We really want to get you guys excited about this event because we're so excited. And it's gonna be a great opportunity for 30 young, active, Black people. I mean, activists, right? We're looking for you guys. We're coming. We're ready. So,
yep. June 28, 29, 30, and you will be paid a stipend. You won't have to do this for free. But we are asking, they do an essay, and there's an application. You can get more information. Just send us an email, instituteforblackjustice@gmail.com. All right? Keep your head up. Keep your head up. Don't let Judas get you down.
And don't be a Judas.
Don't be a Judas.
Don't be a Judas. Okay, I don't care how much they offering you, how much the captors are paying you right now. Okay, you gotta remember: do you want your legacy to end with your life, or with the lives around you and the people that come after you? Okay, that's my piece.
Well said.
We'll see you next week, guys. Thank you so much again. It's the Black Girl Podcast. You guys have a lovely evening.
So we tired of talking, got Black bodies riding in jails and in coffins. Said we tired of talking, got Black bodies riding in jails and in coffins. Nobody coming like we do, started it over like we do. Still fighting for better ways, cause nothing's gonna get them more lethal. Baby, it's scared of my baby, we was not meant to be equal. I know there's better days, but it's up to you to receive them. For years I ain't complained, I ain't never changed. To your love in every race, we was made the same. It's time to read between the lines, not the script they gave.